So here we are, episode 51 of the Two Russells podcast. And just reflecting on that episode 50, Russell, I was really thinking about how to sum that up. And I'm summing it up that it's good to talk.
Yeah, good to talk. It can be a real kind of unburdening, I think, can't it? As I think Annalise has proven that... you can spend years and years kind of in the darkness over something, and sometimes, maybe not always on a podcast for thousands of people to watch, but actually talking to other people is a kind of relief. And as she was saying, it's been a positive experience for her, having told the industry what's gone on in her life and how it's affected her. And it's been inspiring for others.
Yeah, inspiring for others. It's helped others to, help with their own traumas.
Yeah.
And we don't need to open those wounds or conversations, but it was refreshing in some ways to hear how her telling her harrowing story has helped so many other people.
And I think, look, honestly, for us, we're amateur podcasters, right? We're not doing this as some kind of, Stephen Barnett thing, whatever. I think it could have gone horribly wrong, actually, couldn't it?
Yeah.
In terms of it being received in the wrong way. But I think the way Annalise conducts herself and conducted herself on the first episode, I think, makes people realise that this was about helping others. This was about a bit of education and actually kind of uncovering, unfortunately, I know it's very unsavoury, but some of the bad things that happen in people's lives that also demonstrate that despite that, you can come out the other side of it.
Yeah, and her family now really seem to be going from strength to strength.
And her daughter in particular, which obviously is the main thing. So, so hopefully people have benefited from both the original episode and also episode 50, which was Annalise last week.
Yeah, so here we move forward now to episode 51. We must think about that for a moment. We've broken the 50, Russell. We're into the...
Can we put... I don't know if Chris can put some kind of glitter or some champagne corks or balloons in the background here doing all this.
Champagne soon.
Well, it's been weeks, isn't it?
Yes.
It's been weeks. Well, it's probably a regular thing for you, isn't it? At home.
What, champagne?
Yeah.
Oh,
Every breakfast for breakfast.
A very
in
good
the
dry
Jervis
January
household.
for me. A very good dry January for me. Broken this weekend. And then I realised, oh dear, that does hit a bit different when you haven't had it for a while. But there we go.
So, episode 51.
Episode 51. Please welcome to the Two Russells podcasts, key partnership director at Lumon. Welcome, Steve Eakins. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me. Looking forward to this chat.
We need to ask what Lumon is, because it might be a bit of a secret. Now, your marketing department might not like that very much. I know you. Obviously, we've met, and I've been to your offices, so I know kind of what you do. But obviously,
I don't. So I've done my research. So I'm.
And we want you to expand on it, because I think it's almost, forgive me for saying, but a little known service that relates to the property sector. But within it, when you start unpicking the kind of data and the trends that come from what you guys do, I think it's fascinating. But when I Googled Lumon, can I tell you what it actually came up with?
Go for it.
Have you done this? Have you
Many
Googled your
times
own
before,
firm?
yeah.
Well, this is what it comes up with. Lumon primarily refers to the fictional dystopian biotechnology corporation in the Apple TV thriller Severance. So, do you work for a dystopian biotechnology corporation? No, you're at work now.
That's the joke.
No, you're at work now.
No, we rebranded a while back, and that now a majority of people seem to go, is that the same as...
But is it an
I
unfortunate coincidence?
I think I know this film.
Is it an unfortunate coincidence, or does it help?
Whatever. I think I'm not really in people's phones as Steve Lumon. I'm normally in as Steve Currency or Steve Money,
Right.
or hopefully something a bit
Steve
memorable
the Money.
and not insulting.
Steve the Money, that's not a bad label, is it? So therein lies the thing. So what do you do, and what does Lumon do?
So we're in essence a very property savvy currency broker. So we basically help people move money around property transactions, wealth, emigration, and a whole host of reasons. But a huge proportion of that is around property transactions.
Okay. Dedicated only to, or presumably you're acting for individuals generally in terms of moving money around, or is it specific to property?
We certainly have an expertise in that field. But obviously moving currency around the world can be for a number of reasons, from solar power plants to helicopters to livestock, a whole array of the stuff that they make films out of.
Okay.
But yeah, it's majority of it is
The
around
majority
property
is
transactions.
And this would then be second homes, and indeed, as we want to get onto, people that are moving themselves, lock, stock and barrel, to another country, either from Britain, somewhere else, or indeed the other way around.
Correct, yeah. So we've been going for a long time. I'm about to celebrate 17 years in the business. We're actually 25 years old.
Okay.
When I walked in, there was about 20 of us. and now there's over 200 of us.
Yeah, I was staggered how many people
pretty big.
there are. Yeah, 200 people.
So that marketing team that you referred to is currently all in Spain as we're launching office number 10 or 11 this week.
Right.
Okay. And what sort of money?
Oh, you beat me.
Go on, you do it.
beat me.
Go
So
on.
I was doing my research that you're bringing 250 million new income in a year in your partnership, but how much is changing hands on a yearly basis? So that's new.
So to give you some scale as the business, last year we transferred on average about 25 million a day. We
Wow.
did 6.7 billion last year, excluding swaps and sellbacks for some of our corporate stuff. But if you put that all in, it's near enough 10 billion last year. So not a small player in our space. We're certainly one of the biggies. But really, yeah, back to your prior point, UK agency haven't traditionally come across our industry, but this is a big thing in Europe. So back to that point, supporting the Brits and the expats moving around Europe. Europe's traditionally been our industry's biggest playground.
So you're a bank.
They're not regulated exactly the same way, no, but very similar in the fact that we are fundamentally just moving money around. And when we started, it was incredibly transactional, i.e. the bank's at X and we're at Y, and therefore we're saving them some money to
So you're
move
better
money
value.
Yes, our aspiration is to offer better rates and better service than that of the banks, because when was the last time the bank rang anybody?
Okay,
Yeah.
but you don't get into this. When you go and change your currency, you go and get $500 out. So you're going to the US.
Correct.
It's no commission, which looks all very attractive.
Yeah.
But the rate is appalling. I mean, it's not that kind of swerve, is it?
Correct, yeah. So how we make our money is the difference between where we buy and where we sell our currency. So it's built into the exchange rate that we offer.
So you're buying at spot and you're selling it with a little spread.
Correct, yeah.
Right. Okay.
Correct.
Fine.
And adding a hell of a lot more service over that of the banks and others out there to help them with it. But back to that point.
So timing becomes crucial.
Correct, yeah. So when we first started, it was all that transactional piece. So we're the biggest in France, second in Spain, biggest in Portugal. So over there, you'll see us on billboards, hear us on the radio. We've got a dozen buses going around with our brand on. So it does make me laugh that a lot of UK agents goes, oh, I've had a break, I'm going on holiday, and then they'll send me a photo. Is this your office? Like, yeah, we're pretty big in Europe.
That's kind of the point.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
But back to that other point, the direction of wealth is hugely changing. So the amount of international flow is changing, and for reasons that we'll probably come on to.
So the amount or the direction?
Both.
Right.
The both. So
How's that changing?
I would say that historically, we'd have a lot more second homes. So people who were fortunate enough to be in a situation to buy that second home out in Europe.
In Europe or in
Correct.
London.
So the biggest, so go back a couple of years. So 2023, the Rightmove data was 32,000 Brits bought abroad as the primary dwelling. From that, 9,000 was Spain. And then second, actually overtook by Dubai. So Dubai was second even then in 23 to 24, followed by France and the traditionals of Portugal,
Cool.
Italy, Cyprus, and others. So it was all a lot of second home. But what you've got to remember is all of those agents and partners that we have across Europe that introduce us to clients are buying a property through them, and they're funding it through selling in the UK. So the UK agents are getting the opportunity to add that service and add that value and stand out from that as well. So yeah, the amount of people buying second homes or buying properties abroad is certainly contracted. But what I would say is you get a lot less people buying a second home now. It's now people who are leaving the country or coming into
And how has that changed in terms of volume, either in revenue terms, as in a cash value, or in terms of transactions? What have you seen over the last 3 or 4 years, given lots of geopolitical uncertainty? So UK, we've come out of COVID. We've had, several prime ministers, 2 changes of governments here. Definitely a change in economic policy,
Yes.
although some would argue that both the current lot and the previous lot are as bad as each other. But leaving that to one side for a second, lots of uncertainty, lots of disquiet, but also in the US, lots of people that don't like the polarization, which is Donald Trump. Some people love him, some people hate him. Probably more polarizing, I think, than probably any leader we've seen internationally for a long time. But also lots of other stuff happening around the world, in Europe, the EU, France, changes of leadership and so on. That melting pot has dictated what from a UK property perspective in terms of people selling up and going, or people selling up in other countries and coming
wanting to
here.
come here,
What's that dynamic?
Let me give you the change. So what we're seeing at the moment across UK agency, 4 out of 5 of the introductions we get are people who are selling and leaving the country.
Leaving this country.
Leaving the country. So most agents that I talk to, you ask that trend, are you representing a vendor that's leaving the country? And most of them go, yeah, I've got a few now. I've just done a couple, or I've got a couple coming to market. So that's really, really popular now, 4 out of 5. The buyers coming in, Yeah, there's no more Middle Eastern victory laps around Mayfair anymore, right?
Right,
Since Labour
yep.
came in. So they're not coming. The fear of the wealth tax, the mansion tax, the late budget we had last year, those traditional people coming over from those demographics have dramatically changed. You don't get many of them at all. Now what you do is get Americans. So if I get 5 internationals coming to buy in the UK, 3 of them will be American, 1 will be a returning expat. Some of the data on there is 60% of expats return or reinvest in the UK in the first 3 years.
From the US specifically or generally?
From any. So someone that's left the UK will either
Gone
come
to
back
Dubai or wherever it may
or
be. Yeah.
will, if they've gone over to Dubai and done well for themselves, will reinvest in the safe of
we
British
realise that
bricks
it's
and
not for
mortar.
them, for whatever
But
reason.
yeah, 3 in 5 of the internationals will be Americans. So some of the data that's come out from the government last year, Q1, it was just shy of 2,400 Americans applied for citizenship in the UK. That was up 40% on the prior quarter, which was the prior record. Q2 last year was just over 3,500. So there's a huge trend of the Americans coming over for a whole number of reasons.
Lots of Democrats running away from Trump. People like Ellen DeGeneres.
There'll be the blue states, So some diversification, middle class and upwards in America would normally have half a dozen properties, and now a lot of them are going, well, maybe we should get one out of the US.
Yeah, and obviously this week, I don't know if you saw the news, Tom Cruise, who has an apartment apparently at One Hyde Park, £35 million, apparently $42 million, has decided that because the Rolex shop, which is literally underneath his apartment, got smashed to pieces and a load of stuff nicked, he's going. Now, whether that means he's going to, I don't know, the Cotswolds or wherever, or whether he's going back to the US, I don't know. But that changing dynamic, this kind of real disquiet, this noise geopolitically is great for you, isn't it? In terms of the liquidity.
It's a double-edged sword. I'd often make the joke that it can sometimes be a bit embarrassing to have the British passport, but at the same point, there is an opportunity as a result of it. It's a talking point.
Expand on that. Embarrassing to have a British passport.
People that are leaving for a reason, right? So I'm not going to get into the politics bits too much, but you can tell there is that theme of people leaving.
Don't tempt him.
I know,
Don't
right?
tempt him.
But we've equally seen the data and the numbers that have been reported for last year. So the Henley and Partners report about the millionaires leaving.
Well, that was 16,000, but that was debunked, wasn't it? That
they did
16,000 millionaires leaving Britain.
16,500 millionaires was what they forecasted.
But what are you then seeing?
I'm certainly
80% of the taxes, wasn't it?
Yeah,
the
but
data I'm seeing supports that.
I'm going to say, because you're the reality, right? So Henley, no disrespect to them, right? So they provide residency, citizenship for a fee, right? Based on buying assets in other countries, right? So I get that they have to have a PR narrative which is a bit sensational, right? And I say that as a guy that runs a PR agency. You are at the coalface, so you're actually seeing the money changing hands. It's not the forecast, it's actual people leaving to go to, well, and let's talk about what the big countries are: Dubai, Monaco, Italy, US maybe, and so on. So you're actually seeing that. So you're saying that the evidence in terms of this significant outflow of wealth from Britain, that's happening.
That's already, well, when you talk about the billionaires, and as soon as the non-dom status changed, a majority of them were already out. What we're talking about now is almost the second phase of it. So these are the SME business owners that are doing very well, have decided that they want to, it's not the tax environment they want to be in, the quality of life isn't where they want it to be, and they're just making that life event sooner as a consequence of it. So these millionaires that left, or leaving, the ones that we're seeing, they aren't bank account millionaires, they are property millionaires. So they're selling their property assets, which again will be, the agencies will see that theme of people leaving as well.
And maybe domiciling their businesses elsewhere, maybe some employees are also going, certainly where they pay tax, corporation tax and personal tax will be changing, which is why, Monaco and Dubai are great destinations because there is no income tax. What amount of wealth do you think, I mean in total, obviously you deal with property, what amount of wealth do you think has left the UK since Labour took government?
More than before. How's
Good
that?
answer. Good answer. Well, before
lot more?
Before Russell gets his "Make Great Britain Again" baseball cap out with his political campaign on, I really just want to understand for our listeners a little bit more. So I get someone comes to me as a vendor, they tell me I'm moving to Dubai, then I would put them in touch with you. How does that all work?
Correct. So to frame the industry from an agent's perspective, ultimately they will see the Americans coming in perhaps, but probably a hell of a lot more likely they're going to recognise that they're seeing more vendors that are coming to the market that are leaving the country. Now, why would you introduce a currency broker, a currency specialist? Bluntly put, we offer a better rate and a better service than the bank. That's what our industry does. So from an agent's perspective, if you've got an international inquiry, their budget's just gone up. Okay. Or if you've got a vendor that's leaving, they can accept a lower offer because we're giving them more for their pounds. So last year we were one of those that were a bit more in demand as a result. As soon as an agent sees this and recognises this, and they see one from it, it can make a very sizable difference to how much they're earning and taking away from it, as well as making sales happen. So perhaps some examples there that will bring it to life. Before we go on to how much the currency market's moving, because that's also worth being incredibly aware of. But from using currency to the advantage, we get agents to introduce us at times of doing the valuation, bringing it to market. Don't win the listing, we still help the client. We have there you go. Here's a few stories for you. So there was one recently where the buyer and seller were off by 0.5% on a multi-million pound purchase.
What, as in the offer?
Correct. Yeah. Offer and accepted level were off by 0.5%.
On what, like 2-3 million quid or something?
3.5 mil.
Okay.
The agent, as you can probably relate to if you're listening to this, a bit frustrated.
Yeah.
Hang on. So
Close that gap.
what's this, about 80 grand?
It wasn't a small. Well, it was 0.5%, but you do the maths and it's that much. And the agent recognised that the buyer was bringing funds over from Europe, introduced us. We went, what's the bank giving you? Here's 1.5% more.
Right.
And offer accepted.
Fantastic.
So straight away.
Wow.
The other aspect is from a vendor's perspective, going back to that point, again, very price sensitive market last year, not the best for a lot of people for reasons we all discussed and aware of before. But agents will come to us and go, I've got this great offer. It's cash buyer with no chain. It's a below asking price offer, but I know the vendor's moving abroad. Can you help? Now give me the numbers and I'll go, yeah, go tell them this represents the market at the moment. The bad news is it's below the asking price. However, this below asking price offer now gets you more euros than
so
if I came to you at the full asking price 6 months before.
You can help to top it up. And your clients, though, I think I've asked you this question before, so I think I know the answer. It isn't all billionaires and multi-millionaires, is it?
No, it's certainly not. So our average first client transfer volume is £220,000.
Okay.
Your average?
Average first client transfer volume is around 220 last time I saw
Was that your little 2-bed flat in Spain somewhere? Or
So what I would say is, some agencies in the UK have adopted it sooner, and I like to think kind of the team behind the successful agents at top, but they've just been the early adopters for it. But if you look across Europe, and we've got a couple of thousand partners across there that are introducing us to their clients, and the average property transfer value is not the millions.
And
incredible.
Do you pay a commission to the agent?
Correct. Yeah. So there's a commercial angle there from them as well. So they learn from the introduction. But we're in this B2B to C model. We work with partners that introduce them to us to their underlying client. We share the commission that we generate, the revenue from it. But bear in mind that we couldn't do that unless the client was happy and wanted to use us.
Yep.
So don't assume that there's an additional fee as a result to cover that. But we want that flow of introductions of new clients coming to us. And the commissions going out to the agency isn't small. It's normally thousands per client.
Brilliant.
So, I had an agent yelping down the phone at me just before Christmas. They'd sold a property that had been on the market for a while, lots of hard work. They'd earned 5 and a bit grand from selling the property. They introduced me with an email and a WhatsApp and 2.5 grand.
Lovely. Great. Well, we'll put your contact details on the end, Steve. So I imagine when you were at school, you go to see the careers officer and you say, I want to be you didn't say I want to be a currency partner. So,
No.
So take us back. Where did it all begin for you, your working life?
Working life, well, I'm heavily dyslexic, hence why I'm a numbers and walking calculator kind of guy. So schooling wasn't the easiest to go through. Did end up going to university and did a HND first, so a 2-year course rather than 3 because I didn't do very well at the A-levels. I was down at Plymouth, finished that in computing, and then ended up going travelling for a while, came back. My dad got me my first proper job, which was actually selling Chubba Chop lollipops, Smint and Mentos.
Okay.
Out of
Selling?
Chubba Chops.
Chubba Chops.
What,
Chop
to
lollipops.
wholesale?
Lollipops.
So was given a van and an A to Z because it was that far back.
Right.
So
Go
these
and
are the
find
things
shops.
that we see at duty free as you walk through Standstill or
Like
Heathrow.
little lollipops
Little
and
pops,
Mentos
they're
and Smint. Yeah, so I'd be a rep for the brand to go and get the brand recognised by going out to independent shops to get
Mr.
them to list it.
Lollipop.
Yeah.
Pretty much, if you like. This is before the big 5 took over all the conventional little shop pieces. So you'd go out to loads of them and run that. So I'd have to walk into shops, gain their trust and get money out of their till as a result to spend on the product. So did that for a while, realised that I was doing rather well in contrast to my peers that were 10 years older. So I knew there wasn't that much life in that career. So I went into computing and was selling computer solutions for a few years. That I grew through acquisition, and I knew I'm very manager heavy, perhaps in that firm. So I left that, took some time out, got a bike license, went out on the bike for a while, then wanted to get into finance and numbers. So I approached the firm that I now represent. They, if you're interested on the interview, they decided you're brilliant, but you've come from a different background. You're not quite right for us. And I wrote a letter because no email's really problem. You're wrong. I'll work for free for a month. Let me show you.
Did you?
Brilliant.
Yeah.
That's ballsy.
So
Yeah.
went in from there, stirred it up a little bit with the attitude and different ways of working and ways
Didn't you
of
have to
approaching things.
prove your number acumen? Were they not sure about that? Is that why it was a no? Because you didn't come from that background? Couldn't they have to give you a test? You know,
Correct.
what's pi to 20
No, it was
decimal
just-
places or something?
This was a while back
16 years
again now,
ago,
right?
yes, yeah.
So no, they just looked at it differently, and you hadn't come from the right kind of background bits. A bit of a risk because they have to invest in training and understanding, and equally they open the firm up to a risk if they've got the wrong brand representing the brand. But yeah, went in, proved it, been there for a while now, and yeah, when I walked in, there was 20 of us, and now there's 200 of us.
Take us back to your school days then. So dyslexia. Did you know that you were dyslexic? Had it been diagnosed when you were at school?
I had, yeah. My mum recognised it, got me to go out and get diagnosed for it, and then had to basically train the teacher that this is what it meant. So I was in
Because there just wasn't the awareness of it.
pretty much,
Yeah.
yeah. So I was in extracurriculum lessons and classes and things from the age of 8, 9.
Was there a stigma to it?
Yeah. Well, yeah. I don't think I was the coolest kid in class. I'll be honest. But yeah.
But lots of famous people that have been very,
Yeah.
very successful at dyslexic, the likes of
look at other ways
Richard
of solving
Branson
it.
and so on.
Yeah.
You look at other ways of solving problems, and you don't necessarily need to remember. You need to remember how to get to that place.
Did
Yeah.
it drive you a bit?
Yeah, for sure. But equally, my upbringing, my dad sold confectionery, so sweets, hence that link
Yeah.
in with Jubba Chops that I mentioned prior. It wasn't like we were hard line, but we were always looking for extra bits of money to come in. So my mum started a business on the side selling secondhand toys. So going and collecting toys, tidying and cleaning them up, and then doing a mass sale to the school parenting community, shall I say?
So your mum was the entrepreneur.
A networker.
A bit of both, right? They were both dabbling and dealing and doing their bits. So yeah, you can look back, and I've probably got a few more dental issues than a few other kids my age, because I had garage full of sweets and a garage full of toys for my
Yeah,
mum. So
yeah.
I had the ups and downs of it.
Well, sounds like an ideal childhood.
That's right.
Go to the
That's really
garage,
good.
play with a load of toys with a lollipop in your
That's
mouth.
it. So
And
What's
was
not
it
to
the
like?
case that you weren't looking to go to work, or you weren't getting a job, that your dad said, right, here you go, here's your first job?
Not
What was
quite that. No, I was always working. So I was doing paper rounds at a very young age. When I was going through my GCSEs, I had 3 jobs. So I was working all the time. My mum and dad were very go and do some work, get some work, do some work. So I was always working and doing bits and learning bits and having a go at bits. But yeah.
And in the business you're in now with 200 people, I mean, that comes with all its pain points and headaches and staffing. What's a typical day for you then? What's a typical day? Is it client management or staff management?
Yeah, a whole combination of things. Now we're now a size that there's plenty of good people throughout the business. So I don't, at one point I touched every part of the business apart from the compliance bits and regulation bits. So I've been involved in a majority of parts of the business as we've grown. But now my days will often start with calls from Dubai in the morning, first thing, and then I'll be on the phone to Americans in the afternoon. And in the middle of that, also dealing with agents, educating and forming agents around what's going on and how it's useful for them.
And is it all done over the phone? Is it a kind of quite an old-fashioned relationship-based thing? So, it's not like a TransferWise, whatever they're called now, where someone will go to a website, find the rate, click, yes, I want to transfer 250 grand. So
Very different.
It's not e-commerce. It's all kind of old-school relationship-based.
People.
Correct. So it comes back to that the management of how much the currency market's moving. So Wise and Revolut's the other one. They're kind of low cost, low flow, transitional. So get a shiny app, press the go button when you want to. But I think they reported their average transfer volume is like £2,400.
I'm going to say it's a much cheaper ticket price.
Teeny weeny bits. But if you're doing large volumes of money, then they're not normally the service that people point towards.
You want to make sure it arrives.
So
Can you tell us what the biggest deal you've ever done is in transaction revenue terms?
I'll give you an example of one.
Ballpark.
So, tens of millions.
In one
transfers.
hit,
Yeah,
in one
hit.
transaction.
Yeah. I once got, and to caveat this, I
Who
don't
gets
have.
to press the button?
Everyone.
I want to press the button.
Yeah, when you're trading and doing it, yeah, for sure. Yeah, you're putting it on, you're putting it off to different creditors to fill the positions. But maybe this will resonate with how much the market's moving. So to caveat here, I don't have a lot of billionaires on my phone book. But I had a random phone call one day from a number I didn't recognise, picked it up, and it was this billionaire that was on the phone. Steve, I know I've been told I need to speak to you. I've been introduced to you by an agent on Baker Street. I'm buying an £8 million place. They've told me I have to deal with you. I've come across your industry, but I've never used you. Why would I use you? It's like, well, to be honest, with a lot of clients, we'd normally make a saving between us and the bank. So on this volume of money, if I could save you 60, 70 grand, you're not going to really be too bothered. It's really around risk mitigation. And the guy on the phone was like, what do you mean? I was like, well, I'm assuming you've told your bank that you're going to make this £8 million transfer from the US. Yeah, I told them 3 weeks ago. Great. And how many times have they rang you since? Because in the last 3 weeks, it's got $380,000 more expensive for you. And we kind of knew this was going to happen. Would that be useful? And that particular client went a bit apeshit at the private banker and came over to us.
So you could almost
You can
sell
lock it in, can
you
you?
could sell a forward as such.
Yeah, it can do loads of bits. So back to how much the
Fascinating, isn't it?
market's moving. So the pound to dollar rates moved by over 3% this year. It's swung between the bottom and high about 16% in the last 12 months. The pound to euro rates moved by about 6%. But the dollar bit's relevant because the Middle East currencies are all pegged to the US dollar. So that means, for example, if an agent's listed to this and they've been listing a property for 6 months for a client that's looking at selling to move to Dubai, they could theoretically reduce their listing price and still get the same amount of dollars because you're getting more dirhams, more dollars for your pounds.
So where are the best deals looking forward now? So obviously when someone decides, let's say, to move from the UK to another country, they're thinking about crime rates, education, the tax regime, which obviously, again, why the likes of Dubai and Monaco are so appealing. But from a currency point of view, and this is a bit of a kind of crystal ball question, over the next kind of 6 to 12 months...
I'll get it out, shall I?
Yeah. But you're
where do I invest?
You're a man in a business with your finger on the pulse. And you just said that, you can foresee a few weeks forward in terms of the likelihood of sterling weakening or the dollar weakening or strengthening or whatever. Where do you think people should be thinking then in terms of where someone that's holding an asset or currency in Britain might actually look elsewhere?
It's incredibly
for a benefit.
challenging to answer, so I'll try with a few rounded ways of getting close to the answer.
Yeah, just give us a feel for what might be cool in terms of a currency or property investment for someone in Britain in the next 12 months.
Well, to give an idea, when I first started, if the exchange rate moved by 0.5%, it would be on the front of the FT the next day.
Yeah,
big news. Now, if we see that kind of movement 3 days a week, it's a quiet week. The rate of policy change from Trump changing the world, redefining NATO and everything else means it is incredibly volatile, which means from a client's perspective, it's a risk. From an agent's perspective, if you've got sales going through on your pipeline, which is internationally exposed, it is a risk or an opportunity that you need to protect. So give you an example, because we talked about forward contracts as well. For those that don't know, what a forward contract is a buy now, pay later option. So it allows you to lock in the exchange rate early, therefore mitigating the risk of the exchange rate going down and impacting your budget. So one of my favourite stories from last year is we helped an American rebuy their family home on the South Coast. We were introduced by the agent at the time that the offer was accepted. This was peak tariff conversation.
I'm going to say, tariffs.
Yeah, another
With the markets,
narrative.
The markets went everywhere.
Yeah, correct. So we locked in the exchange rate then for the client. When the completion came around a few months after, we did the maths for them and informed them that if they bought their pounds in the week of completion rather than exchange, it would have cost them another $180,000.
Wow.
Sale would have been fallen through, agent wouldn't have got anything, the house would have fallen through and everything. So it's those kind of tools. With regards to which way the market's going, we can't advise, we won't advise, we don't have that elusive crystal ball. But more so over others, what we look at is we do an intelligence report. So we compile 52 banks' forecasts around what's going on a weekly basis, and it allows us to get rid of the noise of the media to respectively say, this is what these banks are saying, what those banks are saying, here's the mean average, here's the risk to reward ratio. It's all around that information and education, because it's moving. When was the last time the bank rang anybody? Whereas we're proactively assisting those. This has just happened. This is the impact. This is what might happen next. How do you want to do it? How do you want to manage it? And ask those questions to help them from it. Which way the direction's going? Yeah, Trump's leading it. Trump obviously seems to want a weaker dollar to both help him with the cost of the US national debt, to help with how affordable their manufacturing becomes. And he's on a re-election campaign almost already. With a few years in, right?
Yeah.
So you can see it all playing out. But what people seem to misconceive is, yes, all this tariff conversations, that's definitely going to weaken the US economy. And Yeah, well,
It's not doing bad. They're forecasting 3% GDP growth in 2026.
Correct, but the net gain
We're
that they're getting as a
1%.
result of the currency movement is far bigger. So people don't look at that
So
angle.
he's kind of got away with the tariffs, hasn't he?
Yes.
He has.
Yeah. With 10 billion of transactions going through, it feels like an awful lot of stress. And you're running a lot of people. You've got a lot of people's lives in your hands as they're making these decisions. So how do you deal with that, Steve? How do you deal with the stress of running a business?
Well, there's a whole good team around me that run their respective teams and do it all. It's not all me, first off. Great team of people around me. But when you're talking about managing stress and relating, it's an emotional journey through my career of having clients crying down the phone because properties don't add up anymore, because X doesn't equal X anymore. And equally overjoyed clients that have got a swimming pool and an extra bedroom because the exchange rate's moved in the right direction. So the important thing to consider is there's a difference between cost and price.
Yeah.
There's a cost to purchase, but there's a price associated with it if the exchange rate's moving. So it's just getting that mindset out there so people can be aware of it to protect it and see it.
But that's managing the outward stress. How about the inward stress?
Oh, yeah. That's a whole other thing. I got myself some dogs and went out walking with the dogs, which was good. When I used to do big trades, I used to celebrate with a cigar and a little short whiskey and a dog walk. That was quite nice. Now going back to how everything's so quick. When we first started, our biggest introducer was CFAX.
Right.
CFAX.
Yeah. Who knows
Some people watching this won't even know what that is.
Exactly, right? Whereas now
The whole teletext equivalent.
Teletext and CFAX. Yeah, now I get it via Instagram and WhatsApps and bits and pieces. So it's trying to find a gap to turn off. So now I go around with 2 phones rather than 1.
Or just turn one off when you're not working.
I don't necessarily turn it off, but I don't look at it as often.
Don't look at it as
How's
much.
that?
Yeah.
Leave it out. So I've got a couple of kids at home, so they know the difference between the blue phone and the yellow phone. Blue phone is work phone. If I'm using my blue phone in the evening around them, they're allowed to pick up their iPads.
Oh, wow.
Which
That's
I kind of go,
the deal,
I
right?
don't want them to pick up their iPads. I better not pick this up.
Yeah.
Or I shall, go to bed. It's bedtime.
That's quite a good discipline, actually.
Or turn the Wi-Fi off.
Yeah, no, I think that's a very good discipline.
Yeah.
No, teaching kids priorities and balance, particularly when it comes to screen time. Again, against a backdrop of what's happening, and I hate to be political, but with the whole under 16 social media thing and all that, it's very, very topical, isn't it? So this globalization thing, then, in terms of people freely and more willingly moving from country to country, this is only going to get bigger, isn't it? I mean, we once people see that it's actually not such a big step, because there are companies now that do what you do. There are concierge companies that will help you with residency and passports, and
there's a whole ecosystem around the move.
Yeah.
So it's relatable from my perspective to the B word that I probably don't want to say out loud, the Brexit word that we were all talking about, and everyone's like, oh, no freedom of movement, I can't relocate, I can't do it.
So do you just think we're going to be all countries, but let's focus on Britain, that Brits are going to be far more mobile, particularly knowing, as you've alluded to, that they can go off to Dubai for 3 or 4 years and then come back.
Correct.
Yeah, which again is good for you.
London, where we record this podcast, I mean, 12 months ago, trains weren't as busy. I mean, coming in today, it's absolutely mobbed. Can't park at the station, you have to park away. The trains are busy. I know the restaurants are busy. London generally feels to be a busy environment again.
Well, I think look, it's always been debatable whether London is the true financial capital of the world. And of course, Frankfurt says it's them, New York says it's them, and so on. The advantage we have as London, despite everything we say about politics, we actually do have a relatively stable political system and a relatively stable economy. If you look at, I guess, what I call the consumer economy, so forgetting Rachel Reed's black holes for a second and so on, but also we have a time zone that is very, very much in our favour. So years and years ago, I used to work for a company called Tullet and Tokyo, which you may be familiar with, who were foreign exchange and other brokers. And we would start at 7 a.m. as the Far East was starting to wind down.
Okay.
And at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, New York kicked in.
Yep.
So we had the benefit of being in the middle of the other big markets. And that, I think it's fair to say, and by all means, audience, feel free to critique this, that's why London will probably always be the true financial capital of the world.
And language.
Yes.
Yeah.
International language. Yeah, if it's good enough for pilots, it should be good enough for everybody else, right?
The language is there, the network's there. It is. I appreciate safety isn't as safe as people thought we perceived we were before, but relatively safe, relatively educated, relative healthcare. Just there are easier access to others. And what we're also seeing is we'll see a theme and a trend of where these clients that we're getting introduced to, oh, there's a hub spot there. They're all going in one direction, and that area is going to that direction.
But to my point, do you think it is temporary? So these people that are going to Italy for the regime, Monaco, and look, I've been to Monaco loads of times. Monaco's a glamorous, wonderful place. I wouldn't want to live there. I mean, it's so built up. There's no green space at all, right? Literally, it's a mile square.
And it's very expensive.
And you'll see the best Ferraris, Lamborghinis and Porsches. You can go to Café de Paris and the casino, and it's all lovely, and you might see Lando Norris, and you might see someone. But it's really a glorified council estate. Actually, is what Monaco is.
Yeah. I don't help many people move in that direction anymore.
Yeah, but I've got loads of friends that are going to Dubai. Loads of people in property that are going, but they do intend to come back. You know, perhaps when there is a change of government, a change of politics.
We've got quite a few people coming back now in the property recruitment sector. Done 6 years, coming back.
So do you think do you sense that that's what people are doing?
I don't think this will be a multi-generational direction forever. Correct. Yeah, I would expect this to be some form of bubble. And
so it's almost like a protest, isn't it? Stamping our feet. We're going to Dubai. 2029, 30. Assuming
we're coming back.
Yeah, whoever's in government isn't just as bad as the last lot. They'll come back. And that actually, in terms of optimism, for those that don't like what's going on in politics, I know I keep coming back to politics, sorry. But that's a really positive thing for you in terms of inflow. But actually, property market, industry, the economy generally, if all these wealth creators start coming back in 2029, 30, we should be really excited about that.
Well, I think there's a bit of an undercurrent now. I mean, I just look at the Instagram and the commentators and people who are reporting transaction volumes in January. Polly Ogden Duffy, the MD of John D. Wood, we had her marketing director on in December, was reporting yesterday, look, 2025 was a hard slog, but 2026 in the prime and super prime has been extremely busy.
So they're catching up from the transactions that weren't done.
And we see those transaction volumes moving. The agent I mentioned to you earlier, lots of volume.
We're seeing this our side as well. So people coming back into London at the moment, there is a new sense of optimism. There is the bargain hunters a little bit at the moment going, we've probably reached the bottom. I want to get in now before
we
it
want
starts
to get
going up.
We want to get moving.
Yeah, correct.
We want to get moving.
And then that will
it's good that we can end on an optimistic note.
Yes. Yes.
We should hope so.
Yeah. Fascinating. So Steve, how do agents get in touch with you? So what's the easiest way?
Old school phone call, WhatsApp, or I'm also on Instagram as well.
And LinkedIn.
And LinkedIn, of course.
So probably, start with LinkedIn. You'll find Steve very easily. Get in touch and send me and Russell a commission check for when you do your first transaction.
On all future business. On all future
Or a cigar and a little whiskey sounds nice, doesn't it? So we could do that. Steve, that's been amazing. Thank you so much for sharing a story of a real success story and a hidden secret. I think a lot of people in property will not know that you could get a transaction closed by listening to this podcast.
Well, you could, and I think, look, again, hopefully we've unpacked this for those that didn't know that you guys exist, and not just as a means of someone changing currency insofar as you're selling or buying client, but the fact that it can actually have almost a kind of an arbitrage financial benefit which you can then sell down the line to clients. So it's another kind of tool in your toolbox.
Well, great. Well, thank you. That's it. Episode 51, episode 52 on the way. Thank you for listening. If you like what you hear, please give us a thumbs up and share and comment. That will all help the algorithm, which all helps us.
And subscribe.
And subscribe, of course. Help bring you more guests. So that's it. Episode 51 in the can. So it's just for me to say it's good night from me.
And it's good night from him.
Good night.